One. Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to another edition of the Geeky Bros podcast. I'm your boy Tactix.
Yo, it's just Darcy here.
And we are missing our third wheel. He's currently in Greece on vacation right now, visiting some friends. So he is missed, but we should have him return. His triumphant return next week sometime, hopefully.
Yeah, either that or he'll be sleeping on the podcast because of jet lag. Either one of the two,
Yeah, for sure. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I know we also missed last week, so we got apologies for that. Yeah, it's just a lot going on. I had some conflicting things happening. I went to Cirque du Soleil.
Oh, nice.
Which, by the way, if you've never gone to Cirque du Soleil, is dope.
I went a long time ago. I vaguely remember it.
Yeah, it was impressive, and it was a good time. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sure, man. I'm sure that shit's impressive.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Well, today, since Umar's not here, we gonna talk about all the things that are bad about Umar. I mean, talk about stuff.
A long list.
Oh, we might need more than an hour.
Yeah.
No, we're actually going to talk about stuff that Umar doesn't really watch because he's a scaredy cat.
Did he not watch the show at all?
Love, Death, and Robots, which is what we want to talk about. He actually watched the first season with us because we actually randomly watched it at your place.
That was my fault.
No, it wasn't your fault. I feel like we were watching Netflix, and one of us was just
So
what is that?
So here's what happened. So right around the time when Love, Death, and Robots came out, there was also that Ben Affleck movie that came out. I think it was with his brother and like two other big actors that I can't really remember right now. But it was during my birthday and we were flicking through Netflix trying to figure out what to watch. And you guys said the name of the Ben Affleck movie, but I thought I was currently on Love, Death, and Robots, and I thought that's what you guys were talking about. Like my mind was like elsewhere, so I clicked on that, and no one said anything. We just started watching these episodes, and then you guys were like, "Yeah, yo, this is actually really good." And then you said to me like, yo, Tactix, what made you decide to click on this? And I'm like, you guys said you wanted it. And like, no, we didn't. No one said that. So I was like sitting there like, oh, I fucked up. My bad.
Oh man! And now here we are, 3 seasons later, in love with the show. Yeah, happy accident. I bet that other movie was trash, anyways.
I actually saw it. It's not that good.
So we dodged a bullet with that one for sure.
We definitely did, yeah.
Well, I mean, 3 seasons later and deep into basically Black Mirror meets 3D animation, or just animation because it's not always 3D. Especially this season, there definitely was a few non-3D elements in this one.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
So, how do you want to go about doing this? How want to first go off? What was your general thoughts? Because I'm thinking we talk about what we think about the season as a whole, some of our favorite pieces from the season in terms of like some of our favorite episodes, maybe our most mind-bending ones, that kind of stuff, and like how does this all compare to like the other seasons? So I'm gonna kick it to you. I'm curious to see. I really just want to know what you thought of this season.
So this season was pretty solid. I'll have to say that my all-time favorite season, I think still to this day, is season 1. It's also the longest of the seasons. But I found season 1 to be really, I guess because like you said, it was like a happy accident. We were not really anticipating it to be as good as it was. And I'm a huge fan.
Anticipating it to be anything though.
Yeah, fact. But I'm a huge fan of Black Mirror. I love that show. I've been pitching that show to every single person, telling them to watch it. It's very heavy, very dark. So I wouldn't recommend binging it because it'll fuck your mood up afterwards. You might have to like, sprinkle in some like Pixar film afterwards if you're gonna binge watch that. But in terms of Love, Death, and Robots, yeah. I'd say Black Mirror is a little bit darker than this. I mean, arguably, like you could make a case for some of the episodes, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
only say Black Mirror is a little bit darker just because the episodes are tend to be a lot longer, so there's a lot more storyline fleshed out. Whereas this one, with a lot of these episodes, they're like at most 10 to 12 minutes kind of thing, and like they leave a lot open to interpretation.
yeah.
So it kind of leaves you wanting more, which is it's kind of a good thing, but also it's kind of like, oh man, that was it. Like I actually really wanted more. Like I feel like it was incomplete. But in terms of the season, yeah, I enjoyed myself. I found myself entertained. Uh, for majority of the episodes, actually, there was ones that were kind of like meh to me. I'd have to say, um, well, okay, so I'll throw it back to you, and then let's break down some of
Hmm.
the episodes, like episode by episode.
Yeah, so right out of the gate, I thought that this was I agree with you. I feel like this was a solid season, but it wasn't the best season.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I have some like I want to say I have like one really favorite new episode out of the season, which is
Mm-hmm.
just absolutely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have some like some good moments and some weak points overall.
Mm-hmm.
But and one thing I was thinking about while you're talking is that like I feel like Love, Death, and Robots, the storytelling is always especially this season. It feels like I'm trying to think if in the other seasons it was always like this. It's always like it feels like in this season like they were all a story in the middle of the story, right? Like it was
Mm-hmm.
just like there was more before and after that in
Yeah.
every story like that could have been going on, and you just get this like moment, and it gets really messed up, and
Mm-hmm.
then yeah, like you said, there it leaves you wanting more. There's more that could be done. Some of them feel more complete than others, but definitely some I'm like, yeah, like where is this going? Like I want to know where this
Mm-hmm.
goes, please. What'd be interesting is if they actually followed up in later seasons, but they never do. Except there's only one, which is our favorite threesome robot
Yeah.
tourism dudes here. They're the only
Yeah.
ones they follow up the story on, and it's like that they're just fun. Like those stories aren't good; they're just fun.
Yeah.
But
You need a little bit of that considering how dark the show is as a, like overall. You need like the lighthearted humor sprinkled in
yeah,
there. So, and they've been in every season, right?
yeah, absolutely. Every season,
Yeah.
yeah. The first one was I'm trying to remember what their second season one was, but the first one was just them like exploring an area, and then they come and there's all the cats,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
then at the end, I'm trying to remember what happened in the second season that they did. This one is like they basically go on an oil rig and they're touring around like how the rich billionaires got away. They also like they start in like basically a trailer park and then they go to like, okay, well let's go see how the rich like tech millionaires lived, and they're like on an oil rig.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, but the second season I forget what they did. If they were they in the second season?
Actually, no.
Hmm.
I'm looking it up right now. They weren't.
Ah,
Yeah, it was
felt
only
like if
season one.
Felt like they would be. Well, I mean, it's
Yeah,
good follow up. So that there's a chance. There's a chance that some of these stories will get followed up in another
for
season.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, overall, I agree with you. I feel like it's solid. I kind of feel like each season's got a little bit weaker, but it's never gotten horrible. Like
No.
it's never tanked. It's
Yeah.
just like but I have to give acknowledgement that this season is clearly developed throughout COVID. It's not an
Yeah.
easy time for that, so obviously there's less production. Maybe there's like they would have wanted to get like 3, 4 more in, and
Mm-hmm.
then that would have maybe made the season stronger as a whole. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. Um, Here's a thought though. Like, what? So, and I don't know if they would ever consider doing this, but let's say, for example, like you were saying, some of these storylines kind of start in the middle where it sets it up in a way where like there was definitely something in the beginning of what's currently going on right now, and there's obviously the way they ended. There's obviously definitely something that is going to progress further in that storyline. Would you ever want to see like a one-off, like I don't even know what you would call it, like a spin-off where they take one of these episodes and they flesh it out as an episodic series or like a one-off film type of thing? Or do you want to, would you rather them just kind of leave it alone and like leave it open to interpretation?
I think for the vast majorities, they just need to be left like left as is.
Mm-hmm.
But if I were to choose one, what would be the fleshed out like one?
Mm-hmm.
That's very interesting. I'm trying to think. Like now, I'm not remembering every episode, but
Mm-hmm.
like let's say I had to just like limit it to this season. Um, I'm gonna have to come back to that one. I'm gonna have to come back to that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's just jump into looking at the season as a whole, and then maybe after we go through that, we'll have some good ideas. It's like would you turn this one into a show of its own?
Sure, sure. Okay, well, let's start. Okay, we'll start at episode one then. Three robots, exit strategies. What did you think of this one? And what would you rate it?
I mean, I feel like every time we get the three robots, we almost
Mhm.
can't rate it because it's like
Yeah.
it's completely separate, right? It's kind of like it's like you do you rate the sushi place based off of like how good the like what is it the ginger and wasabi is like
Yeah.
like this is the palate cleanser for me. This is not like I'm part of the meal. So I'm
Fair.
like I give it like I don't even I had to rank this thing. I feel like it would be ranked low and then given way too many generous bonus points for just existing. Like
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you there. Like I miss these guys. I miss seeing these guys, despite the fact that like they don't really add. I mean, it's its own self-contained storyline, so I can't really say they don't add anything to the series as a whole. But I feel like the series is almost incomplete without them in it, because you have some episodes that have love in it. You definitely have a lot of death, but when you think of robots, you think of these three, right? So I think like every season should have these guys sprinkled in, at least to kind of like soften the blow and the extensity of like, or the heaviness rather of all the other episodes.
you know what I would find interesting, but um it'd be cool if they kind of do what they're doing with Black Mirror, which is you know how they had the Black like Mirror Museum and it was like tying all these stories
Mm,
together. It's
yeah.
like I would kind of love if like and maybe they are doing it, we're just not paying attention when we're seeing these. But if they were to show like or at least some of them were interconnected and they were
Hmm.
like when they're walking around showing things we would see remnants of other stories because like this is
Hmm.
so far like the world went chaos and multiple bad things happen at the same time and so
Yeah.
it's like you're just walking by a building and you're like wait is that from episode like and you're just like I
Yeah.
love for them
Yeah.
to kind of drop that with that not being a museum though like not them like detailing it it's just like
Yeah. Right.
Easter
Right.
eggs
Right.
everywhere
Yeah.
and then it becomes like a fun thing. But yeah, these guys need to be there, and yet I can't rank them. It's
Yeah.
unfair. They're the palate cleanser to a great meal. So
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with that. Yeah, I can't really rate this one either. It was fun, a fun intro into the season. And it was great to see them back. I Other than that, I can't really say much else about the episode. Um, yeah, I found it entertaining. I found it funny, and then
yeah,
the end reveal was hilarious.
oh yeah. I mean, it's always
Mhm.
it's always the damn cats. I love the kids.
Yeah, yeah. But like the connection to Elon Musk was just hilarious too, because
Oh yeah, I
yeah,
forgot about that. Yeah,
yeah,
that was like who you think is gonna be Elon Musk. I was like, wow,
yeah,
because it was like you definitely thought it was gonna be Elon Musk,
yeah,
and then you're like, oh, they can't do that. And then they
yeah,
say his name, you're like, well, I guess they can do that. And I
yeah,
bet you like nobody would have cleared that with him, and he would just watch it and be like, like he just laugh and
yeah,
enjoy it. Like
yeah.
he wouldn't care, like one bit. Also,
Mhm,
I just enjoy personally is just the tech millionaires because I'm in the tech world, and so
mhm,
it was just kind of like funny because I'm just like
yeah,
an extra little thing for me because I'm like, yeah, that is how it would be.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
everything they're saying, I'm like, they're not wrong.
But okay, so let me ask you this, not to get too off topic here, but like with the way, because I know you are into the tech. world and everything, and with the way of the world that it's in terms of the direction that it's going right now with the metaverse and Elon Musk trying to make it out into Mars and make that habitable and all that stuff like that. Like, do you fear or do you like are you one of those people that has those what do you call it, those they're like conspiracy theories about like the state of the world and where it's headed in terms of the advancements of technology, like especially the way it's depicted here? Maybe this is a extreme, obviously an extreme exaggeration of it, right? But we're seeing a lot of things in regards to the metaverse, and like that gives me a lot of Matrix vibes where they're like trying to plug us in. Not to say that I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I'd be interested to hear what you think.
I mean, I'm not much of a conspiracy theorist kind of person,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like yes, you can logically make those things into plausible, but
Mm-hmm.
the thing is that like if you look for the answers hard enough, you'll find whatever you want to find. So, but how do I put this? I feel like did you ever watch Sword Art Online, the anime?
Yeah. No, I haven't finished it, but I have seen it. Yeah.
Enough. It's I feel like that is a higher risk with the metaverse than a lot of what other people are fearing. So Sword Art Online, if anyone who hasn't seen it, is essentially like it starts off and all these people are wearing like VR equipment that essentially like not only visually brings people in, but it taps into their neural senses and allows them to feel the entire weight of their body being inside this like metaverse, right? And then some guy basically manipulates it so that people, if they die in there, it'll kill them. It'll basically give them like a
In real
brain
life.
aneurysm or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, real life. And then they're stuck in there, or and die. And so what ends up happening, and they handle it in the show well, which is that like when people realize that this is happening, like some people just die off just like because nobody, like they lived alone, and so their physical body dies off, so they die off from the game that way.
Mm-hmm.
But for the once people realize they're actually really dying in real life, they really focus in on like how they live in that universe. And all what happens is like the government goes around, takes their physical bodies, like moves them to hospitals and stuff like that because of what's going on, because it was like how like thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, so we very clearly had to like take care of it.
Yeah.
But I feel like that kind of a thing is very like far closer,
Mm-hmm.
especially with like some of the advancements people are making with like inserting like RFID chips in people's skin and like computers
Yeah.
and stuff like that, which I'm not a fan of. But I think that stuff is like more likely because there's even, if you look at a lot of technology around like prosthetic limbs, and I
Mm-hmm.
saw these guys that were like in college years ago that were just like building like a prosthetic arm that just reacts to like the electrical impulses. Just like if your arm is cut off and there's still electrical impulses are being created as you're trying to move your fingers from your
Mm-hmm.
nerves, and they're
Mm-hmm.
able to sense that and can tell, okay, this is the index finger, this is the
Yeah.
pointing finger. If you can just tell that little without inserting anything into somebody's skin, what's to say you can't plant something on top of your head and then start to sense those things and trick the body, right? So I think that thing is more likely than like
Mm-hmm.
the Terminator example, where people always
Right.
think about, because it's going to be a lot harder to program fake intelligence than people think it's going to be. Like, it's not saying it's
Right.
not impossible,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to take a lot more to get there. Um,
Yeah.
than I think it's going to be to like manipulate humans than it is to like make a robot be completely autonomous. But
Right.
that's kind of my feeling. It doesn't mean I don't look into the robots in depth enough. I just think that
Mm-hmm.
like what they're capable of right now is far more limiting than what people imagine it is to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because I saw a video where Elon Musk was briefly talking about the possibilities of like he was basically explaining how like he was talking about, I think he was referring to the metaverse, but he was also talking about how if he was going to do something like that, he would do it similar to what you were talking about in reference to Sword Art Online, where it would be a neural link where people are actually tapped in via the brainstem, and you're allowed you're it enables you to transport your consciousness into the the virtual space, or the or virtual reality, or whatever the case may be, and actually be within that world in an actual metaverse type of setting, which is interesting but also kind of scary to think about too, because they also did
Black
I
Mirror
didn't
episode
watch
on
the
this.
episode. Well, yeah, they've done Black Mirror, they've done the Simpsons episode on it as well, and you know how conspiracy theorists are about regarding
Oh
the
my god.
Simpsons
So
and like all. Yeah, they run wild with that shit. But yeah, it's just very interesting, and like the fact that there is the potential that that could be something concrete in terms of a neural link, because there's so much things that we don't even realize or understand about the human brain, and like what you were saying about like the artificial limbs. I was reading a book, not Change Your Brain, Change Your Life, the brain that changes itself. It's basically a book on neuroplasticity. So neuroplasticity, like the brain's ability to change based off its malleability. And they were doing this particular study where they had an amputee come in, and they basically had like a severed arm, and they placed the stub of his remaining limb on a table, and then on the opposite side of the table they put a mirror, and the mirror basically reflected his good arm, like, so the arm that was still intact. And what they ended up doing was they took a feather, and then they basically they had him watch the mirror, and then they basically stroked his good arm with the feather, and he was able to neurologically feel the sensation in his amputated arm just based off of that perception, which is so, it's fascinating to me. So like the fact that they can just do like the fact that they can do that without any kind of technology, I can only imagine what they would do with actual artificial advancements in that regard. So yeah, it's
yeah,
interesting shit.
one thing on this, going back to Black Mirror, I thought you were going to specifically call out was the one where they had a metaverse, and when
Uh-huh.
you passed on, you could upload your consciousness into that metaverse. And so the episodes start like people were going in and out of that metaverse,
Uh-huh.
like willingness, but they had like a
Yeah.
program. So basically, like
Uh-huh.
it was this woman, and she was going and meeting this other woman at like an 80s
Oh
diner, and it
yeah.
would go to a 90s diner, and then it would go like sorry, not diner, but like an arcade. It would go like 80s arcade, 90s arcade, and they would be like young teenage, like early
Uh-huh.
20s versions of themselves, like, falling in love. And then they when they show you where they actually are in real life, they're actually elders, and
Oh
one's
yeah.
one's in a coma, and the other one's like passing away from cancer or something. And
Uh-huh.
so they decide to put their consciousness into the metaverse and stay
Uh-huh.
there and let their bodies pass on. And so they will
Yeah.
like live infinitely. And it was bring up the really strong question of like, would you live infinitely digitally, or do you believe in your consciousness being tied to your physical body? And that was such a strong question. I had some
Yeah.
good debates on that one.
Yeah.
And we could have more, but we need to go to episode 2 at some point. So
Yeah. I definitely want
but
to I want to revisit that, because I didn't know you were that deep into the like consciousness and all that stuff, and I've been diving deep into that shit too. So maybe for another episode we'll keep that in the back pocket.
yeah, consciousness, and more for this is like just how crazy technology is. Like, I'll put this in
Yeah.
your brain for you to like think on, and then we'll move
Yeah.
on to episode 2, which is, if you really think about a computer, it is just electricity
Mm-hmm.
hitting different pieces of metal. And think about
Mm-hmm.
how much we're doing with a computer right now, and how the
Mm-hmm.
hell does electricity go through metal and it stores information? How does that work?
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. If you actually physically look at the pieces, you're like, how is it doing that? That's how crazy the brain is. So it's like
Well,
the
yeah, because I mean, a computer was modeled after the brain, which emits electricity. So that shit's just
yeah.
fascinating to me, man. Like,
Yeah. So let's get
it's
on to
like when
episode 2,
people,
because we never
yeah,
gonna get off of this.
yeah, 100%. We could dive super deep into that. So we'll save that for another episode. But episode 2, bad traveling. What did you think of this episode?
This was a top episode. This was
Mm,
messed up. This was
yeah.
the thing that I was a little confused with it though, because like at the end I was like, why? Like, was like my big question, because it was like, okay, he's going to this place, and this crab gets on the ship and starts eating everything. So now he's gonna feed them to survive, but then he ends up killing the crab. So I'm just like, I thought like maybe he hated people and was gonna send the crab against at the town, but
Hmm.
then he didn't, and then he killed the crab. And I'm like, so you just use the people to survive? That's it? And but at the same time, I'm like, that is enough. But I was
Hmm.
just waiting for like a big reveal that he was super evil, but he was just like evil enough to make sure he didn't die.
Well, see, that's what they were initially trying to set up. They were trying to make it seem like he was an evil person and he was only in it for his own selfish gain. But how I interpreted it was he was testing his his crew to see which one of them had moral values, because basically the creature on board was trying to get to that island that was like heavily populated. So they had two options. They could go to the island which was heavily populated with people so that the creature could feed off of them, or there's like another deserted island where there's no one there, right? And so that was the deal that this guy made with the creature, where it was just like, okay, well, I'll take you to the island. um you just have to wait it out a little bit because it's going to take us a while to get there. And then that's when he started to draw the straws, or the he did like a vote to see who would agree to go the greater distance to the deserted island, or to sacrifice all the people on the populated island. And everyone chose to like, no, fuck that, we're going to sacrifice the other people on the
Mm,
island and spare ourselves. And he was like, okay, well, I see where you guys stand in terms of your morals, so all y'all got to go. And so he basically he was like, okay, so since I'm the only moral person on the ship, I'll just gladly sacrifice my crew, so that way it buys me more time. I can feed my crew to this creature until we get to the further island. And then once I'm ready, or once we're clear in the clear, I'll sacrifice the ship, kill this creature, and then retreat off to the island. I don't know how he plans on getting off that island, if he's able to or not, but that's kind of how I interpreted
got you. Wow, I
it.
skipped over a detail or two in this one.
Hmm.
I must have been multitasking. Damn it. Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, it was good, and I mean the animation in this is like it's like surreal. That's the best way to put it because it feels
Yeah.
real, but it's also stylized like it was drawn, like a
Hmm.
like almost like this was kind of like funny, but it was like dark as shit realistic Disney.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it drew like Peter Pan, like their way their bodies shaped, and it kind of reminded me of Peter Pan, but like
Yeah.
nothing about it was like Peter Pan.
No, not at all.
But you know what
Not
I
at
mean? Like
all,
there was just
yo.
something about the ship and everything that reminded me of like Captain Hook, and I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is a Captain Hook that went off the deep end though.
Yeah,
So
100%. But I mean, I liked it. This is probably one of my, like, I had my top three, and this is probably in there as my top three of this season.
agreed,
Really interesting
agreed.
because it took a major detour that I wasn't expecting. I thought that this guy was going to be like some sort of scum, and like he was going to die at the end, but he ended up being the most righteous out of all the crew.
However, is his morals all that good since he sacrificed everybody at the same time? A little bit of both. A little bit of
Yeah,
both.
yeah, you could definitely make an argument for that. Because I mean, in the heat of the moment, when you're under duress and your life is at stake, it's completely different. Like we could sit here and say, yeah, we would have made the same decision that this guy made, but like being put into that situation where it's life or death, and you're gonna be eaten in a brutal way by this creature, like
Yeah.
it's a tough call, man. So
Oh yeah, all around tough calls. Yeah,
yeah,
it's like no matter how good he was, it was
yeah,
horrific.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
agreed.
I mean,
All right, man.
the big dude though. I think I mean, I don't want to say anyone deserves to die per se, but he was a fucking asshole. Because he drew the remember
Yeah.
in the beginning he drew the short stick, and then still sent this dude off to face off against the creature, and then he was the
Oh
one to
yeah,
die first. So
100%. I mean, he
yeah,
yeah, that was karma all the way.
100%. Yeah,
No questions about it.
Yeah. So you able to rate this one, or are we just gonna talk about
Okay,
our
yeah,
likes
yeah.
about it?
Rate. I forgot the rating thing. I want to give this one like a 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm thinking that too. I was gonna say eight, 8.5. This
Like
one was
there
solid for me.
there there are some that are just like blow me out the water, but well,
Yeah.
ironic choice of words. But yeah, this is good.
Yeah, yeah. Because this one was memorable. Some of them, like you watch them and then you completely forget. Like I remember this one. I was really entertained by this one.
Yeah, this was
Yeah.
it was really good. I think this is like where I had Ching to watch a couple with me, and then I got her sit down with this one. It's like a first episode of,
Yeah,
of
yeah,
Love, Death, and Robots ever. I'm like, this is it.
yeah.
It's like what?
I actually got Sylvia to watch this. Like, well, I can't really say that. I was talking about it and she was curious because I initially got her hooked onto Black Mirror and then she binged that whole season in like or the entire series in 2 days. And then when I referenced that this was kind of like an animated version of Black Mirror, she was like intrigued and then binged the entire series in a couple days.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Oh,
Moving on to
what's your
episode
rating?
3. Oh,
Did you
yeah,
put it
eight,
eight and a
eight,
half?
yeah, eight
Okay,
and a half. Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah.
All right, cool, cool.
All right, episode 3, the very pulse of the machine. What do you think of this one?
I really like this one.
Yeah.
For me, this it reminded me of like um it was like the drawing style, but it was like also
Mm-hmm.
3D animated. But it reminded me of like the era of like 80s and 90s like American animation, like heavy metal,
Mm-hmm.
which is like a
Yeah,
horrible reference to make every time I make it.
I gotta
so,
go back and
so
watch that movie then.
I actually watched some like looked some clips. It's actually worse looking than I remembered it being,
Oh yeah.
but it's yeah, like it's just like it's more I don't know. You know sometimes you think of something and you think like oh it's like a certain level of quality and then you see you're like that's not
Yeah.
the quality I remember it being because you're young. But
Well, we're
yeah,
we're spoiled now, right? So.
yeah, absolutely. But I enjoyed it. Like it wasn't like as like devastating or disgusting. It was just very intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one I feel like I wanted more out of. I just wanted to see what was going to happen next. I wouldn't want a series out of it, but
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted I would love this one be perfect for me for like a follow-up. But like
Mm-hmm.
you again if you have a follow-up you need something to tell the additional story and I feel like it would struggle to have a follow-up but I still just want to know more like i
Mm-hmm.
i get that it probably doesn't have much of a story because what are you going to do repeat like you have another
Mm-hmm.
person come to the planet and blah blah blah
Mm-hmm.
but unless this planet itself moves to some other place like what's his name from the MCU and like there's some like question that it brings up.
Mm-hmm.
But this for me was a little bit like a conversation we're having about Black Mirror, where your consciousness is the metaverse.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was kind of on the a same vein of like how much is your physical form really what matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would you die with your physical form, or would you
Mm-hmm.
live and change your form?
Mm-hmm.
And I like that, just like that kind of question and that psychedelic aspect to this episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, this one wasn't as strong. Like visually, it looked fantastic. I really like the animation on this. Um, but similar to what you said, it I felt like at the end I wanted more, and I feel like there's a deeper, richer story in there, especially tying into that whole consciousness aspect of it, and I really wanted them to kind of delve a little bit deeper into it. And just as I felt like at the end, just as they were kind of getting into that answer of like what happens when you die, like where does your consciousness go, and like what is the exact distinction between consciousness and your physical body. And like I like it like they were alluding to that heavily, and then they really kind of pinpoint, like they tried to pinpoint it at the end, and then they went nowhere with it, and it just kind of ended, and I was like, like right when I was like enamored by it, they kind of just like, you know dropped the ball on me. So
You know
Yeah, I was
why?
kind of why.
They ain't got the answers, Sway. They ain't got the answers.
You ain't got the answers, Sway. You ain't doing the education.
They just don't know. I think it's smarter though, because like I feel like they don't, unless you have like an existential answer, like they're
Yeah.
just telling this really good story, and then they're bringing you to the question, and then there's like that, like we'll just leave it up for interpretation and conversation. We don't know either.
But I like I I'm kind of twofold on this. Sometimes leaving it open to interpretation is great because it allows your own imagination to kind of run free and wild. But I also like the different perspectives of like especially in this topic of consciousness. Like what the did you were you able to see everything everywhere all at once yet?
No, no, not
Oh,
yet.
okay, okay. So I won't spoil anything for you, but they really dive into that whole quantum realm type of like parallel universe thing, and they do it in a very unique way that I never really thought of before until sitting down and watching the movie, and I'm like, oh, that's an interesting take on it. And then similarly with Doctor Strange and how they like in the beginning where they talk about how when you dream, like when you fall asleep and you're dreaming, that's basically just your consciousness in another universe, another
Yeah,
dimension. And that to me blew my mind because I'm like, yo, that's fascinating because like quantum quantum mechanics and physics and stuff like that, they talk about consciousness and being able to kind of go back and forth between parallel realms. And like I felt like with this episode, like there was an opportunity for them to kind of explore it in their own interpretation, and they just never went there. And I mean, this is just my own personal gripe. I would have wanted to see their own kind of interpretation of consciousness and have that extrapolated a little bit more. But yeah,
I agree with you. I wanted it too. I just know they ain't got the answers, Sway.
yeah, yeah. I mean, who really does have the answers anyway, right? I mean,
No,
yeah,
yeah. I didn't think they took a safe route out, right? Like they didn't.
yeah,
I feel like what they could have done to do, I think you can draw right in the middle of those two things, which is
hmm,
tell your interpretation and leave it open, which is you start to show the interpretation and then you just
yeah,
stop.
yeah,
You just cut it. And that way you give like, well, I think this is what they're doing. No, 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 I think that's what it meant. And then you just
yeah,
go rampant on the arguments of what it
yeah,
means, and then you start having something, but you like hint at something without being able to, when you don't have the answers, like you just like hint enough to like
yeah.
give the audience a little bit more. Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like I just, like I said, I wanted more, and
Hmm,
yeah, I could have got a little like touch more.
yeah. I agree. So rating, what you got?
7 out of 10 for this one. I love it, but
Hmm.
I'm not gonna say that it's like it's a strong from a rating perspective. I just really liked it.
Yeah, I'll give this one like a low seven. Like, cause I mean, what really sells it, like, and what makes it a seven, and like, cause it was like I was teetering on like a 6.5 ish type of rating, but like the visuals are stunning. Like, not the best of the series. We'll definitely get to the best one, and I think you know which one I'm talking about. But um, this like the animation style I really enjoyed, so it gets
Yeah.
extra points on those on that regard.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious which
All
one you
right.
think is the best animation right now. Because there's like it's subjective this season. There's a few that I'm like, this is the best one, but like for the wrong reasons. So
All
and
right.
that's
So
what and that was the one we brought up. That's
yeah.
what
Episode 4, Night of the Mini Dead. What do you think of this one?
Like I love this one for like all the wrong reasons. Like it was just funny. It was just
Yeah.
hilarious. Like it was
Yeah.
just I was like I was blown away by like who thought of this? This is
Yeah.
amazing. Like
Hmm.
zombies. Like I just love how it's like they're like you break the tombstone.
Yeah.
Like the weird like high pitch like fast motion sounds of like two
Yeah.
people having sex in a cemetery. It's just
Hmm.
hilarious.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, yeah, like this green flame comes out, but it's just like it's the angle and the perspective. It's just
Hmm.
it's so interesting and genius. And I think that like also from like a VFX perspective, as much as there's a lot of work that goes in this, it's also super genius because there's a lot that they are so lo-fi. Like the people, you don't really see them, so they don't
Hmm.
have to perfect them. They could just be like, all their heads could be just circles. You wouldn't
Yeah.
know the difference, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, I feel like I really want a version 2 of this, but
Hmm.
like it's like the zombies make it to space. Like it's start like I just want to see like the zombies like going into space, and like another season the zombies going, like I can't remember. Do we see them going into the water in this?
uh, I think there is a water scene, but I can't remember.
I
There is a
I
lot
would
going on. It's such a
I would
short
just
amount of
love
time.
to see like the whole second, like the second version of this is like the zombies go into the water and like kill like sharks and stuff, like fight
Hmm.
sharks, and then it cuts to another part, and then like they're getting on a rocket ship as people are trying to escape, and then they land on
Hmm.
another planet and then start killing the
Yeah.
planet, and
Yeah.
it's just like madness, but it's just hilarious because it's just like, what? Like
Yeah.
they didn't all just die on the rocket, like what? Like
Yeah.
I just wanted to like go one more step for just stupidity. I loved it. I thought the animation was just friggin' brilliant.
Hmm.
I really enjoyed it. Not the strongest story, but it's just a really fun way to take something that, you know, we've all beaten to death, which is zombies, and just make me feel like completely fresh in a different way.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think yeah, this one was definitely a fun ride. A nice little break in between all the darkness that we've been subjected to in the last couple of episodes. And yeah, it was just funny. It was a funny play on like the oversaturation of zombie movies, and it plays exactly as such. I thought there was an issue with my Netflix at first. I was like, wait, what the fuck's going on? Because I didn't read the title. I was just watching them back to back, and they would just start, and I was kind of like in between watching this and doing work, and so I thought there was an issue because it was like going really fast too, and I was like, what is happening right now? And then I realized, oh, okay, this makes sense.
You like start
So
checking your zoom level or your
yeah, I was
screen.
like, yo, what? It was so weird.
It's like,
Um,
but by the way, when you zoom out, that's not actually how it works. You can't
yeah,
pull up like, you know, your favorite Jennifer Lopez movie, zoom out, and all of a sudden she's
yeah.
miniature. Like, it's not how that works.
Oh man. But yeah, no, I enjoyed this. I could see them revisiting this and doing like a part two, or even doing something in the same vein as this stop animation, but like in a different context, or like maybe it's like a Terminator type of thing with like the robots taking over, or some other kind of catastrophic event
Oh,
or whatever.
what other types of like apocalyptic movies have we seen that are like are redundant, right? Like they
Yeah,
become like too much, and then like
yeah,
like it's like, oh, another one of these, and they do it, you know, and it's just like
yeah,
hilarious. Like,
yeah,
yeah, that would be good. I definitely just want to see these animators do this animation style again,
yeah,
and just but like have some fun concept and like just completely make fun of things. Like,
yeah. It kind of reminds me of like Robot Chicken a little bit.
oh, you know, actually, I just thought of a really good idea what they could do. Haunted houses, and it's not like a ton of things. It's just like you're
Yeah,
following this one dude stupidly move around the house, and
yeah,
there's the
yeah,
ghost, and you can see it. You know, like
yeah,
like when you're a kid and you'd have like the toy houses, but you cut the roof off, and so
yeah,
you're like
yeah,
seeing it from like the top down, and it's just like the
yeah,
stupidity of like little people getting chased, and then they're dead, right? Like they get
yeah.
killed by
That would be
something.
good.
You're
Yeah,
just this like hilarious stupidity of like horror films. That'd be amazing.
yeah. I think that would be a good theme to add in there for sure. Make it
Oh
very
man.
comical, similar to this one. Yeah,
Yeah. These this is like the next version of like the touristing robots. It's
yeah,
another good palate cleanser. Like they could throw one of these next season, skip the robots for next season, and come back to the robots in season 5, and like, you know, just
yeah,
mix it up. So
yeah. 100%. Yeah, I think I'd give this one 7.5.
yeah, I was thinking the exact same number for this one.
Yeah,
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 it lacks in story, but it makes up for it in charm.
yeah, yeah. For sure, for sure. All right, moving on. Episode 5, Kill Team Kill. What do you think of this one? This is the one with the with the animatronic bear.
This one was this is another this truly had the animation style from like heavy metal. I
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it. um yeah, this was this was like awesome, simple, fun, nasty.
Yeah,
Just I forget, how did this one end again?
they all die. So the eye comes out of the bear and it explodes.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah. I was like, did anyone make it out? And yeah, I know it was like, oh fuck.
yeah, yeah. No one made it
um
out.
you know, I think I noticed in this, I think in this episode and one more, what's her name? Joe Maglione, or how do you say his last name? Was I think in
Yeah.
both of these. He was a character in both of these, in like two
Oh, really?
episodes in this season. I think he was one of the characters because they made them look like their likeness. I think
Hmm.
he was in this one and also in a later episode as well. Um, yeah, this one was good. In that it was like nasty. I don't think it was strong like as some of the story ones. Like it didn't really make
Hmm.
me like think or anything like that, but it was like good and intense. You know, I feel like this one is 7.5 kind of deal for me. Like, you know, I've
Hmm.
seen it before, but it was good that it was here.
Hmm. Yeah. This one was it was fun, but it didn't really do much for me. Um, I mean, the gore factor was kind of cool. It reminded me of the one from episode or season one with the vampire. I don't know if you remember that, where they
Mm.
enter the tomb and then like it's like a souped up vampire that just slaughters everyone. It had a similar animation style, um, but it kind of reminded me of that. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the same animator who made this one. But yeah, I mean, again, not much of a story there, and I feel like they were relying heavily on just the gore factor and like the kind of bravado, camar, 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 can't even say the word. Um,
Camaraderie.
yeah, amongst the platoon. So yeah, it was fun, but aside from that, it didn't really do much for me. So I think I'd give this one a 6.5.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I feel like
Yeah,
we're having a trend, and I think we're gonna have to say this again, but like there are fun episodes in this,
yeah,
but they
yeah,
didn't there was no like shock, and wasn't as much, sorry, shock and awe in this
yeah.
season. So yeah, I agree with you on that one. Yeah.
Hmm.
Trying to remember
Yeah.
what episode 6 is now.
Oh yeah. Episode 6 is Swarm. Okay, Swarm. What do you think of this one?
This was in my top two. This
Mine
one
too.
got back to the shock and awe. Like when we got done watching this one, my partner was like what? And I was like, oh, you didn't pick up on it? The
Hmm.
very first scene, he was already interacting with the swarm. Like
Hmm.
I loved the fact that it was like the whole thing. He was like going to meet the whole point of this episode. He's like he's going to go meet this swarm, this like what do you call them? A hive like society of these
Hmm.
creatures that will go out and assimilate other creatures, like dominate and eradicate societies, but then assimilate um uh the some of the like creatures or whatever people beings of those species into their swarm and then
Hmm.
modify them, right? And then they're
Hmm.
like this perfect like entity. And this whole time he's like going to meet them, and I love how I'm sorry I'm spoiling this for anybody, but the big reveal is that he was interacting with the swarm before he thought he was interacting with the swarm. I just
Yeah.
love that fact. um yeah, I just enjoyed it because it had me like on the edge of my seat to see where things were going. And you know, you're showing like not male, but human hubris and how that you know, it just doesn't pan out, especially when you're dealing with a highly intelligent species.
Hmm.
And but yeah, it's just a reveal for me. I was like, yep. I was impressed with it, love it. Um, and I also found it very interesting that like the two humans in the scenario were like, you know, of African descent. I thought that was also
Hmm.
very interesting.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, something about it where it was just like I feel like he was like they were kind of like showing like a T'Challa type character, like prototype, but
Mhm.
it's like
Yeah.
or not prototype, but what's the word for it? But anyways, but yeah, like he would look and present like that, but he ain't that, right? Like
Mhm.
he was just
Yeah.
like human hubris always
Mhm.
through and through, and it's just failing, right? And so yeah, I just enjoyed it a lot. How about you?
Yeah, this is definitely in my top 3. Mainly for the shock value at the end. I was just floored when when everything unfolded, and I was like, wow. Um, but what I will say is, for me, this gave me kind of like, and I when I say this, I don't mean so much in terms of storyline, but something about it, the essence maybe, but from a darker aspect, it kind of gave me Avatar vibes. Like it,
Ooh.
I don't know what it is. But there is some kind of like, if this was like a darker retelling of Avatar in a way, um, like it, I don't know, it just kind of gave me that, like, gave me those Avatar vibes. So like, I guess that's why I was kind of so enthralled by the story, and then of course the reveal at the end, and
Wait,
the
hold up.
hard decision.
Which Avatar? Because I could actually I could be misinterpreting. Are you talking about Airbender or
No,
the other
not air.
Avatar?
No, 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 no.
Okay.
The
At first, I was thinking Airbender, and I was like,
no,
I
no,
guess
no,
that
no,
creature kind of looks like the light being that comes off of Aang at one point.
no, 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 no. The one, the with the blue, the blue avatars.
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That makes more sense of what I was
yeah,
trying to interpret.
yeah, yeah. I definitely got the avatar vibe from this, but yeah, and then the harsh, hard decision that he has to make in terms of his sacrifice for the swarm, due to his, I guess, his human ignorance, and being outsmarted by the hive or the queen, and yeah, it was just a, this is one of those episodes that left me wanting more. I kind of wanted to see how this. I mean, we can definitely open it up to interpretation and assume that it's not going to end well for humankind, right? But
No, like
I,
he's gonna go back to humankind, and
it,
he ain't gonna have
yeah,
much choice. He's gonna have a bug up
yeah,
his ass.
yeah. But I mean, I feel like there's a movie there somewhere. So this is like one of those episodes where I'd be like, I kind of want to see a little bit more of that. Like,
Yeah, I feel like you could make this one into a series, like more
yeah,
leading up to the events, what
yeah,
happened while, like, spacing out more of what we saw
hmm,
in the episode we did see, because I feel like there was like, months of time, like they actually
yeah,
talked about it being months of time, so there's like a lot more that could be shown there. Not that I
hmm,
want like a whole season on the months, but
yeah,
um, but yeah, this is definitely definitely more that could be done with this.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll give this one 8.5.
Okay, okay. I'm gonna give this one. This is a 9 for me. Yeah,
9. Yeah,
it's quite solid. It's quite solid.
yeah, yeah. Solid. Okay. All right, number 7, Mason's Rats. What do you think of this one?
My fucking favorite episode.
Yeah. I was not expecting that, yo.
It's like when I said earlier, I'm like, it's like I like one for like all the wrong reasons. It's like first of all, I've always liked this kind of like British animation style. I've seen it a
Yeah.
couple other like they had this like show a while ago. I can't remember what movie. Oh, sorry, a while ago that was like it looked like claymation, but I'm pretty sure it was animated, and it was like
Mm-hmm.
British, and it was about like animals on a farm and some stupidness, and I don't know, I like liked it,
Mm-hmm.
and I like this style, and I just like how ridiculous this was. Like it was just so over the top, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
he brings in this multiple machines to take out these rats, and then it turns into like a whole Terminator level event, and then at the end, he's drinking a pint with the rat, and you're drinking the rats like their beer, and at first you think it's like disgusting. He's like, no, this is good, and it's
Yeah.
like it's so stupid, but I fucking loved it. It was like my most memorable episode. My girl was just like, what? And I was like, I love this. Like it was like my number one episode for like all the wrong reasons. It's not like bad and like it's not like dark. It's just like
Mhm.
hilarious, like for me, and it's like disgusting. Like it has a gore factor. It has all of those elements that make it like worthy of being in here,
Yeah.
but it's just hilarious how it ends. It's just it's like um the I forget what the movie was called, but it had the toy soldiers in it back in the day, and like the toys came to life, but like the toy soldiers were like fighting. It was like a kids movie years and years ago.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Small Soldiers.
Small Soldiers, man, I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
that. I love that movie for all the wrong reasons. When I was a kid,
Oh,
like
that
it's
movie was
just
awesome, bro.
it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
awesome,
yeah,
and I feel like I always needed more. I need more animation than what we
yeah.
got. But yeah, so Small Soldiers. This felt like the adult R version of Small Soldiers. Like it was like in that world of things. It was
Yeah.
yeah. It's so ridiculous. I loved it. I'm honestly gonna give this. I'm just gonna go right to my rating. This is like an 8 out of 10 for me for Left Again.
Damn. Okay, okay.
I'm not saying it's for everyone. I
Yeah,
just
yeah,
loved
yeah.
it.
Yeah, so it's another one of those lighthearted. It's definitely dark. I mean, it has dark undertones. I wouldn't really classify it as dark per se, but it definitely has a lighter tone to it than the previous episodes. Um, it was fun. I mean, I wasn't bored watching it. Um, I mean, I'd give it a 7. It I mean, I'm not drawn to it as strongly as you were. But like, I have questions. I'm like, how did these rats get mutated like this? Like, what how are they so sentient like this? Like, what's going on here? But um, yeah, all in all, it was fun. That's as much as I can really say about it.
What's your
Yeah,
rating, bro? What's your
yeah,
rating?
it's a
Lay it on
7.
me.
It's a
Yeah.
7 for me.
I
Yeah.
thought I thought you were gonna go like 6 or lower. So I'm
No,
happy with that.
I don't think anything in this season was particularly oh wait, did I give it a 6 to something? Yeah, I did. I can't remember which one I gave a 6 to, but yeah, for the
I
most
think
part, like,
you think you said 7, but teetering on 6.5. You, it's what you're feeling.
oh yes, 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 yeah. So yeah, everything is at least a 7 throughout this entire series. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on. Got two more. So number 8 is in Vaulted Halls Entombed. I don't know if I said that right, but this is episode 8.
Yeah,
What do you think of this episode?
it was good, but the whole story to me felt like I'd seen it before.
Mm.
Like there was nothing that happened in this that I couldn't anticipate happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, it just honestly felt like a short story version of many movies we've seen, but wow, the animation was almost realistic. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
just like how it felt. It wasn't their
Yeah.
best animation. It was a better one in season 2.
Mm-hmm.
That was like that felt like there were scenes where like this can't be animated. This
Yeah.
one it just felt like it was really really close. It felt like when you years ago would get like the cinematic trailers in video games, you're like, how is it this good? It felt like it was that caliber, but never quite like enough to convince me like, yeah, this is completely real. Legit.
Yeah.
But it was really good. The end scene was like okay, that was strong,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I just kind of felt like I'm like she made a strong sacrifice.
Mhm.
And the fact that she was intuitive enough to know what she needed to do. But at the same time, I just kind of felt like I'm like, okay, but it's basic. I didn't there was no reveal, there was nothing that like made me felt like I'd seen something hadn't seen this before. So
Mhm.
I don't know. For me, it's a 7.
7. Okay. That's solid. Uh yeah, for me I can agree with that. I feel like it's nothing we haven't seen before. Everything was kind of very formulaic. Like some kind of like similar to like any space adventure movie that we've seen before kind of thing. Um I think the saving grace for me regarding this episode was probably the end scene, the end shot. Because you know, not I mean to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it. basically she is at a standoff between this between the creature at the end that's in it's in chains and it's asking to be freed, and obviously they're not going to free that thing, and so it opens up its mouth or whatever, and it emits these lights, and it basically the girl, being the last survivor of her platoon, sees a premonition of what this creature intends on doing, or I guess it's a premonition of the future of like what is about to happen, and it's basically just like complete destruction of the planet, with death and chaos and all that stuff. And I guess she's so traumatized by it that by the end, you see the camera kind of panning up, and it shows a reveal of her with her eyes gouged out and her ears cut. Um, I guess it's to imply that she self mutilated herself, or the creature basically did some kind of mind control and made her do it herself, because at the end she's also uttering some kind of alien language of some sort. So yeah, that was kind of shocking. I wasn't expecting that.
I
But
missed the ears. I guess I just looked at the eyes for too long. I got to
well, the
go back
eyes
on
are,
that.
I mean, yeah, the eyes are really definitely like they're like very gripping. Like you notice that right away because you're just like, oh
They're
shit.
they're they're eye catching.
Yeah. For sure, 100%.
Could have. I didn't take the interpretation that like I thought she just did it to prevent the thing from taking over her. But then you say, there's this. I do remember her muttering stuff, and I didn't really
Yeah.
think that like maybe she was taken over, and what she saw is actually going to come to pass. And I'm like, that's very interesting.
Yeah, because I had the Netflix caption on while I was watching, and it said whatever she was saying. It was basically saying alien language or whatever, and she was just kind of repeating the same phrase over and over again. And so yeah, I don't know if she was under the influence of this alien, and then the alien made her gouge out her eyes, or she just didn't want to come to see the world in that kind of anarchy, so she just gouged her own eyes out. But then I don't know how that the her uttering the alien language kind of ties into that motive. So I don't
I
know.
kind of feel like if my interpretation is correct here, like I feel like it was starting to take over her. She mutilated herself just to cut it off, but like her brain was already gone, right? And because she mutilated herself,
Yeah.
she's already like in such shock that she's just
Hmm.
repeating the last thing that was like happening to her, right?
Right.
I mean, like where do you go from that, right? Like you've
Yeah.
literally can't. You're blind and deaf. All you
Yeah.
can do is now touch, right?
Yeah.
And like you're literally lost in a world by yourself. Like after
That's
that,
interesting. Yeah.
she's completely lost to a world by herself, and yet she knows how to speak. But of what
Yeah.
value is that, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's like, she's gonna die. Like she ain't gonna
Oh
make it
yeah.
anywhere because she's
Yeah,
not
for
gonna be
sure.
able to make it. Like she's like literally in the middle of nowhere, unless the army's floating above looking for them. Like you ain't gonna find her.
Yeah, I mean, if they ever extended it, it could be where like someone finds her, but they obviously can't understand her because she's just her mind is so far gone, and she's speaking this alien language that they don't know how to interpret it. Um, and then yeah, I don't know. You could build off of that for sure. Because what happened to the alien? Did he get free, or like I don't know.
Yeah. It could be interesting. It could be very basic though, considering the first
Yeah,
storyline
yeah,
was.
for
I feel
sure.
like it's
Yeah,
just gonna either be like repetition number two. Nobody wants that.
yeah,
Or yeah, the alien actually did get free, and then if they impress me with it, cool. But otherwise, it's just gonna be like what I think
yeah.
it's gonna be. So
Well, I'm surprised because you're a Star Trek Troopers fan. I feel like this would be like kind of right up there.
Starship Troopers is a very unique thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Like it is. You know what I didn't realize, because I watch all these like films, or film review things and essays and stuff on YouTube. Somebody actually said I didn't realize it when I was younger, and vast majority of people never realized it. And then they said like now, with technology and the fact that we're reviewing stuff, like we can easily determine these things. Starship Troopers was not only a satire, but it was a statement about something about society, but
Mm-hmm.
people interpret it as if they were intentfully trying to actually play those characters that way, and they
Mm-hmm.
weren't actually making like a reference to like they were basically like calling out bad things about our society through that
Mm-hmm.
film, and I was like, I did not get that. I was never intelligent enough when I was young, and I just accepted it the way that it was. So
Interesting. I haven't
I'll
seen it in a while.
yeah, it's just like talking about like propaganda and like um military and like being dumb-minded and just following suit, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, and the sensationalization of like war and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But they did something so sensational and so corny, but they were trying to do that as like that was a satire aspect, but
Mm-hmm.
people interpret it as like intentfully trying to create something because it was in
Yeah.
that time frame. So it was like,
Yeah.
oh, it's a cross between like the tones of like Back to the Future, but like mixed into like apocalyptic kind of, and like they're interpreting it wrong, right? Like it's not that's not what they were trying to do. They weren't trying to be like make the next Terminator type film and then
Yeah.
incorporate all these different things. That's not what they're actually trying to do. So,
Interesting.
anyways,
Okay. Hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and watch that.
it's 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 everything and bad at the same time, but it's also it's like 100% like good bad. Like it's
I
just
used to
like
watch it all the time because it used to come out on TBS back when I had cable, like when I was younger,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it would just always be on.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. All right, so on to the last one,
Final
episode
episode.
9,
Yeah.
Jibaro.
Yeah.
What do you think of this one?
I'm conflicted with this one.
Mm,
Animation, unreal.
yeah,
Story, definitely intriguing. This is not this is one mind bending. But I
yeah,
was left with like, what? Why?
hmm,
So like it was so intriguing. So like there's this like siren, like mermaidish siren thing. Well, more of a
hmm,
siren actually, not a mermaid. So like this siren who like calls to men and they hear her sound and they run and kill themselves and she like takes all their jewels and makes it part of herself. But then there's
hmm,
this one dude who's deaf, so he
hmm,
can't hear her, and now she's infatuated with him and she's like aroused by him and wants to like be with him and then like chases him and then he falls asleep and she's like basically molesting him kind of, and then he wakes up and then he's like so greedy he just like tears all of this jewelry off of her, which is like hurting her, and then she like dies, but then she doesn't die, and then he does, and I'm like, what? And then this is like, and like when he started tearing the jewelry off, I'm like, man, there's just like no, there's two villains in this story. Like, there's no heroes. It's all villains. But I don't know. I was just like waiting for him to die in a certain way, and it just didn't happen. So I was just like, it was like amazing, but I feel like it didn't stick the landing for me. But maybe you're gonna say something that changes my interpretation of this, and I'm gonna be like, oh, now I love this way more than I thought I would.
So it seemed like they were going for a lot of like symbolism in the sense of, and you kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of they're kind of both the villains in the sense of like what's depicted is very subtle. It's a very subtle depiction of like a toxic relationship where there's a mix between love and also hatred and selfishness and
I want to say
betrayal.
infatuation instead of love, by the way. Like, I don't think there's
Yeah,
love
yeah,
in there
sorry,
at
yeah,
all.
yeah. More infatuation, but in the process they're both in it for their own selfish gain, and as a result of that, because their selfishness outweighs, they're drawn to each other by infatuation, but their selfishness outweighs their humanity, and they end up hurting each other as a result of their selfish actions, and it become and it envelops into this toxic relationship, and then basically there's like a there's like a kind of a rape undertone to it as well, because he literally
Yeah.
strips her naked. He strips her of all that she is, and she lays there bare, and then just leaves her there to die. And then he leaves, and then basically, yeah, it kind of got a little strange in terms of like she's supposedly dies, and then her essence turns the river red with blood, and then he drinks it, and then now all of a sudden he has his hearing, and then he starts going crazy, and then no, there, what's that saying? No, there's no hell like a woman scorned. So
Yeah.
basically, it's basically depicted at the end where she basically is projecting her pain, and as a result, he falls victim to it and ends up dying at the end. And
Hmm.
so, like the symbolism was there in a sense. Like I found it very intriguing, um, but it's definitely one of those things that's not. It doesn't kind of hit you over the head. It's definitely open to many different interpretations, and it lost me upon the first watch, and I kind of had to sit with it and be like, okay, well, what does this all really mean? What's the story here? Because I feel like it's a lot deeper than just the superficial layer that it's presenting.
Hmm. Yeah, you're making me want to take a second watch at this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because like there's definitely like I remember now like a lot of things that you're saying, and the toxicness between them. There's also this whole like I want to say like greed from both sides of the coin
Yeah.
happening here. Like they had so much like it's like when she was doing the siren thing and hurting all those men, it's like she's doing greed because she's obsessed with the opulence of like her jewelry,
Mm-hmm.
and he is greedy in that he can gain if he steals this from her,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like sickening, you know, from
Mm-hmm.
from both sides of that. She's willing to kill for Jules, and so is he, right? But
Mm-hmm.
she like it's like I don't know. But you make me want to see it another time. At the same time, I'm like I want to say this one almost kind of makes me sick to my stomach because there's
Mm-hmm.
something about it that's just like wrong. Like
Yeah.
it's so far gone, and I was so hoping that he was like a hero, and
Yeah.
but he would fall victim, but it
Mm-hmm.
would be like positive. But then like once he was bad, I was like, man, there's no hope in this episode at all. There's
Yeah.
nothing good in this episode. Everything is just wrong.
Yeah. Another way you could look at it too, like as you were talking, it made me think like, so as she in the beginning, as she's kind of presenting herself and using her prowess to attract and ultimately kill the vast majority of the troops that were there, um and she's kind of, it's kind of like in her nature, she's natural with it, and then she's kind of expecting the outcome to be what it was. But then when she comes across Jibaro and realizes that her powers have no effect on him, she's now intrigued by it. And it's kind of like, you can look at it like similar to like how certain women, they'll use certain tactics as a way of like appealing to men, and it's often the man that gives the woman no attention that elicits the most amount of attention from that woman, because like she could go in a club and like you have all these beta guys that give her all the attention and like are thirsting over her and whatnot, and she's like basking in the attention, but she's not really giving any of the guys the time of day. But she finds the guy over there in the corner who's really not paying her any mind intriguing, because she's like, well, what's what's his deal? And then she goes over to him, and now she's infatuated by, she's intrigued, she's enamored by him, she's enthralled by his mystique, and she wants to learn more about him. And then they get into a relationship, and now she becomes the pursuer. And even in one particular scene where she kisses him, or he wakes up and he grabs her, and then her jewels cut him, so it's a sign of like that toxic relationship. And then when they share an embrace and she kisses him, her jewels on her lip cuts his lip, So it's kind of like that exchange is like creating this toxic environment where they're both now in a situation where they're hurting each other, because now he strips her naked of her jewels are causing him pain, and it just unravels into this greedy, you know, egoic mess of a storyline, which I found kind of interesting.
Man, you're making me like this episode more as you talk about it.
Yeah.
I there's a phrase from Kendrick Lamar's new album I'm gonna pull for this, is which is hurt people and hurting hurt people.
Mm.
And like they're both like hurt people, like the way you're interpreting that, where she is like um the attractive girl with like the daddy issue, who never had positive male interactions growing up, and therefore,
Mm-hmm.
you know, loves the attention, hurts the men, and then the man who doesn't give two craps about her intrigues her, but he hurts her in that
Mm-hmm.
process, because
Yeah.
it's just like it's so twisted. And this metaphor of or being a visual metaphor um for toxicity in a relationship is super intriguing, and it's so dark. And yeah,
Yeah.
like when they kiss each other and it cuts him, it's like, and she doesn't care, and she like leans into
Yeah.
it on him, and it's not love. It's like, it feels like it's supposed to be love, but then
Yeah.
yeah, when your kiss kills, like,
Yeah.
and you don't care, what is that? And if you paint all that and you start talking about relationships and like as an analogy for them, wow, that is something crazy. This
Yeah.
is You're making this rise in my ratings before I even get it. This is like dark and interesting, and yeah, I feel like I'm probably gonna have to watch this episode again.
Yeah, I had to sit with it for a bit, and then as I thought about it more, I was kind of like, okay, like, because I feel like a lot of like episodes like this often have some sort of a statement. When they're so vague in their storyline, I feel like it's trying to say something, and you have to kind of dive a little bit deeper into it. So once you kind of like separate all the superficial layers and you kind of dig deep and you look at the metaphor behind it, it kind of was like, and I mean, we could be way off in terms of our interpretation, but like that's kind of how I saw it, and I was like, that's really interesting the way that they kind of depict that, and they showcase it in a way of talk like a toxic relationship of greed and infatuation, um masked as love, right? And so
Mm.
yeah, just yeah, I found it really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this episode had two of the three parts: love and death, and no
Yeah,
robots.
100, yeah, 100%. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah, okay. So now I gotta move to a different part, because I'm just gonna get lost. Like I'm gonna be like out here like phasing out if we keep doing this episode. Um, do, what is the most memorable episode so far you can think of from all three seasons?
Ooh, um, man, there's so. Oh, okay. So the one that comes to mind, I don't know if it's, I guess based on that definition, the most memorable one that popped into my head right now. Maybe not my favorite, but the one that I remember right now is the one where the girl, she's the astronaut in space who she gets knocked away from her terminal, and basically she has to her cord gets severed, and she's basically hovering in the vastness of space trying to get back to her terminal, but she has no way of getting there, and so she has to kind of use momentum to kind of push her back in the direction of her terminal, and so she's forced to take her take her glove off, and in doing so her hand freezes, and so she has to throw her glove to kind of propel her forward, and then she has to break her arm off to continue the momentum to get back to her terminal. And I just remember that like being super graphic, and I was like, oh shit, they actually went there.
Oh yeah, that was a really good one. I
Yeah.
mean, for me, there's like a couple that like really stand out. I have
Hmm.
like probably three that from like earlier seasons.
Yeah.
One is the guy who goes to like this he goes on like a space trip, and he like goes and meets his old like ex-girlfriend, and he's like interacting with her, and he's like like what's going on, and like how are you here, blah blah blah, and you end up finding out that he accidentally, like, there's a miscalculation in the computer that was supposed to, like, when you go hyperdrive or whatever to like another
Hmm.
place, and he ended up like being absorbed by like this like spider that lives in like
Yeah.
space, and it's like he's like it's like, will I ever be able to go home? And it's like, you're far from that ever happening. Like,
Yeah.
you're like hundreds of years from ever being able to get home. And just kind of accepts living in a simulation, and then the spider is like, it's okay. And he's been in this simulation like over and over again, and he's been here for a long time. The start of the story is just you watching one of the simulations run through,
Yeah.
and how the spider's like cares for him, but it's like he's been eaten by this giant spider. It's super super creepy, just super creepy, really
I
really
remember that one.
mind-boggling. That one never sits right with me. Like, I hate it because of how much it makes me uneasy. Like, it's just
Hmm.
like, like, no. Like, just bothers me deeply. That one really stands out for me. Like, it's just a hardcore memorable one. And
Yeah.
my other favorite one is just the robot fighting one, where they have like these robots fight inside the
Oh,
cage, and then
yeah.
you end up realizing that the one that's the best fighter, the reason why she's the best fighter is because her brain is in the robot,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
not, and the human version is actually, it's like the thing that you think is like part robot, part creature. Or no, it's not fighting robots, they're fighting creatures. And
Yeah.
you think that the creature is the person, but the person is actually the robot
Yeah.
living out so that the creature can fight. And it's like, oh, that's so dope. It's so
Yeah. It's
dark,
messed
and
up.
it's so good. Those are like two of my favorites that like really stand out for me.
That's a good one. Another one that came to mind was the one. I think this one was from second season where um adults are able to extend their lifespan by killing off kids, and basically if you're harboring a child, you you'll be sentenced to death or prison or something like that. And so you have this guy who goes around and he patrols, and he basically goes to people's houses um who the government speculates are harboring children, and he'll go and he'll annihilate the children and then arrest the
Oh yeah.
yeah. But then he kind of gets a change of heart, and progressively he starts to kind of like question whether or not his actions and his job is actually uh, moral. And at the end, he has to face off against his partner, who is like strongly like of this new imposed law. And that it reminded me of the movie. Did you ever see Equilibrium with Christian Bale?
No.
So it's an old movie. I think he did it right before uh either right before or right after he did one of the Batman movies. But basically it takes place in a futuristic dystopian world where emotions are outlawed, so emotions are against the law. And so
Mm,
they create this serum or this drug that suppresses your emotions, and anybody that shows any sign of they have to basically take these injections, and anyone who shows signs of emotion is basically gets imprisoned, or either imprisoned or death or something like that. And so it reminded me a lot about that, because it kind of plays off in a similar way where Christian Bale starts to kind of he stops taking the serum, and he starts getting his emotions back, and then he got basically
mm,
fights against the resistance. And basically, yeah, that's kind of how
interesting.
it plays out. But yeah, that was another memorable episode for me that I really enjoyed.
You know, that children one, for some reason I don't think I fully interpreted it correctly. about killing
Mm-hmm.
kids. Like I feel like I
Mm-hmm.
may have interpreted it slightly different at the time. Man,
Mm-hmm.
you just made that's so dark. It's
Yeah, man.
so dark.
It was
Oh,
I remember that. That was a good episode, man.
wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, this show just does some stuff that's just like
Mm-hmm.
crazy. You know, I'm gonna throw one more thing to you before we wrap up here. Just
Yeah.
Google Love, Death, and Robots and then put Sculpt Double after it. I just want to see your reaction.
Sculpt double
Sculpt Double.
all through the house.
Um, yeah, just look at the images.
Oh shit. Oh, this is the Christmas episode.
Yeah, I forgot about this one. I was just like looking something up while
Yeah.
you're talking, and I was like, what is that creature? Man, oh, I want to go back and watch this like from season 1 to season 3 because this is the kind of show you could easily binge in like one day, like all three
Yeah.
seasons.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, if you want to be that dedicated, but you can really binge this quite quickly. And yeah, I think this would just be like I feel like there's some gems. One though I absolutely hate it, and I will skip it every time is Ice Age. I cannot stand that one where it's like the miniatures in the freezer. I can't stand that. Like
Oh,
I just hate it. Like it's I'm like no, no, skip. I don't even want to watch it. I hate that. I hate the style. I hate everything about it. I'm like no,
yeah.
skip.
I don't even remember. I watched it fully, but yeah, it didn't leave a
Yeah,
lasting impression.
we watched it together. It was just basically like watching there was like little people starting civilization from Ice Age, and it goes all the way
Yeah.
from that to like our basically like our thing, and then they had a nuclear war and killed themselves. And it was just like
Ah, okay. Yeah.
I hate it. I absolutely hated it. That is a hard pass for me of all of them. Hard
Yeah.
pass. You know what one that's really oh you know what? I gotta stop. We're just gonna keep going and going and going.
No, which one? Which one? Which one?
The one where there's like a giant man who washes up on a shore like a beached whale, and how
Oh
people like
yeah.
yeah take pictures and stuff with it, and then there's like all like you know the scrotum is like this and that aphrodisiac, and people like sell it off, and it's just like so weird and messed up. But it's like a
Yeah.
real way of like us how we look at like creatures like like
Yeah.
whales and other animals and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
such crazy concepts.
Yeah. I mean, it's a solid series, man. I really enjoy it. It's an easy binge for sure, like you said. Um, yeah, I already want more. We only got 9 episodes, so I kind of
Yeah.
want another one. I'm waiting for Black Mirror to be honest. I heard they're coming out with another season at some point. So
Look forward to that. I kind of hope
yeah,
this show gets a season 4 like next year because I
yeah,
feel like there had to be stuff that they couldn't make the cut in time
yeah,
that people were working towards
hmm,
because there's got to be plenty of animators who are trying to like get into the show
yeah,
and so I'm sure there's just stuff that like this actor this whatever budget whatever couldn't quite make the cut but still couldn't make the cut later. So I really
yeah. That's
hope
true.
to see another season of this followed up soon.
Yeah, me too. Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
All right. Well, I guess we're gonna wrap things up now. So we're coming up on 90 minutes here for the show. So hopefully by next week we should have a full house. So myself, Darcy, and Umar will be returning with us, and we'll be talking all that good stuff. I know I definitely have a lot of shows to catch up on, like Obi-Wan. What else? What else? The Boys.
the boys, bro. I'm
Yeah.
just saying. I'm like, yo. I mean, I know you're not hardcore in the Star Wars stuff. Obi-Wan is solid. I will say that Obi-Wan is
So
solid right
I'm
now.
not, but I actually because if they're bringing back Darth Vader, I'm like, okay, yeah, you got me sold on that. So
Oh yeah, yeah. No, you go enjoy it. Like and you think that it's like, oh, we're gonna wait the whole season. No, by third episode, you are into Vader, okay? And it's like I feel like I'm getting more Vader in this show so far than I've gotten in like
Mhm.
movies. So,
Would you okay? So would you say that? I mean, maybe it's too early to tell, but would you say that Hayden Christensen has redeemed himself, or there's a possibility of him redeeming himself for the backlash that he got for the prequels
I want to say it's hard to say
right
because
now?
the only depiction of him outside of the Vader thing was him in the Bacta tank, or however you say it, Bacta tank, which is basically like a healing tank thing.
Mm,
Think of like Starship Troopers when they had him in that thing. And they was like repairing them in the water. I think it's
yeah.
kind of like that, but like
Uh,
not as like a complete repair kind of thing.
yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like a healing tank. Oh, you've
Hmm.
seen it if you watched what is the other one, Boba Fett, you saw the back the tank when he kept sleeping in it like every other episode. But anyways, but I want to say like when they're depicting him, and if he's in the Darth Vader suit, the thing is that the voice isn't his voice. It's the
Hmm.
original Vader voice. So he's
Yeah.
only doing physical acting, which technically could simply just be a stunt person
Stunt
right
double.
now.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
if they have future stuff in that future episodes where we actually see full on Hayden Christensen, because like when we see him like um outside of the suit, it's very much like you're not seeing acting, you're seeing a body and in being put into the suit.
Got
Because
you. Okay.
if you remember like the original trilogy, like his legs are cut off, his arms are like cut off. So like
Hmm.
he's like a shell of a man inside
Yeah.
that mechanical suit.
Right.
So yeah, like I really haven't seen Hayden Christensen's acting yet, is what I'm saying. I've seen the character, but I've not seen Hayden yet.
Got
So
you.
it's hard to say, right now about that. But I think Darth Vader is being represented properly. And so it's really enjoyable. But I will say, if you ask me like which show right now, because Tactix, you go into this week, if you had to prioritize between the boys and Obi-Wan, it's the boys, man. This season is
Yeah.
crazy. Like the last two episodes I've watched, episode 2, the way it ended and the way it went season episode 3, bro, Homelander is terrifying me right now. Straight up. There are scenes and my heart is just like doom 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 doom, because it's like, bro, it is the boys unleashed. And that show is already unleashed, but
Yeah.
it is there are characters who are having a new lease on life right now. Okay. Like it is intense and it is good. Like it is like the way things are going feels like it's going down, like we're gonna get scenes in this season that are gonna put it on par with Invincible, like the ending.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Oh yeah, like it's like it's got the potential to just be
Hmm.
like that fight level, because like I mean it's already similar. It's already
Yeah.
very similar. But it's like, yeah. I'm like, if we had to review the first 3, 4 episodes of something and you only had time for one, I'm just gonna say dedicated to the boys. I make an executive decision. Umar can deal with it because it's not like you're gonna have as much to talk about when it comes to
Yeah.
Obi-Wan anyways.
Yeah. That's true.
So
That is
yeah.
true. All right. Well, I know my homework for this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. You are going to
Yeah.
enjoy yourself.
Yeah. All right. Cool, cool, cool. All right. Well, I will check that out. Yeah, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching or listening wherever you are. Feel free to like and subscribe. Please share this podcast with your friends, and we will see you guys next week. I'm your boy Tactics,
Yo, it's just Darcy here.
and we
It's
are
Geeky.
out. Oh, yeah,
Peace.
yeah, 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 and Big Geek Umar. We got to throw him in there in spirit. He's here in spirit. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.